Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1375.
Buy the ticket, take the ride.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hey Cars Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Covercraft. I've protected my vehicles with their products for decades. Want to keep your vehicle's interior looking new? It's easy with Covercraft seat covers. They'll protect your seats from the daily abuse of pets, children, weekend adventures, and even those everyday spills. It's a fast, easy, and inexpensive way to keep your vehicle looking new. All Covercraft seat covers are easy on, easy off design that are machine washable. You can choose from many fabric options, colors, and accessories, all designed and carefully sewn for your special vehicles. Their seat gloves are semi-custom fit for cars and trucks, and their seat savers, a favorite of mine, are custom tailored to fit your seats like a glove. Work truck seat covers are tough, durable, denim weight fabric. It's like putting a pair of rugged jeans on your truck's seats. Want to stay warm? Covercraft also offers seat heaters. Covercraft is the right choice. Learn more today at covercraft.com and tell them Mark at Cars Yeah sent you. That's covercraft.com. Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I'm revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest calling in from Gilbert, Arizona, Andy Lee. Hey, Andy, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
As usual, the crotch belt's a little too tight, but I'm ready to go.
Well, get yourself comfortable. We're going to have a good time here, and I'll promise we'll keep the car on the track. Andy Lee is the co-founder and driver coach at Track Rekord. That's Rekord, R-E-K-O-R-D, a company born out of a need to provide consistent, high-quality track day driver instruction across the United States and Canada. The ultimate goal of Track Rekord is to reduce risk, improve safety, increase enjoyment, lower your lap times, and reduce your insurance costs. Andy is both a driver and a mechanic who has raced since 2003. He's run in the Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup and in the Pirelli World Challenge Series in a Camaro. He garnered Rookie of the Year honors and a second place in the championship. Since 2008, Andy has recorded 8 wins, 24 podiums, and 11 poles, and he has raced in several series including IMSA, Continental Series, Trans Am, NASA, and SCORE off-road racing. He's tested and raced a variety of cars, including a Lamborghini, Cadillac, and my favorite, Porsche. So, Andy, I've told our listeners just a little bit about you. Would you take a brief moment to share a little bit more about your racing career, your business, and, of course, a very obvious passion for driving very fast in automobiles?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say my racing primarily is in sports cars, but been lucky enough to dabble in off-road as well. Leading up to the racing career, I did a whole lot of driver instruction, worked at the Bond Route Racing School, and I think that's really where my passion for coaching came from. And so all that's kind of led into us starting our own company called Track Rekord. And so here we are.
Well, it's very cool. Past guest Kai Goddard, and he's going to be on the show again here. When Kai was on before, he was working at a track before, coaching and managing. And he and Andy decided to get together and start their own thing. And I love having past guests come back on the show who've evolved and grown and done something new. And of course, listeners remember last Friday I had Steve Kimpton on the show. Steve is maybe the wise arm of the group there, as he just defined himself. Keep you young yahoos on the straight and narrow. All joking aside, though, I think you guys have a great team that you've put together of very talented people. So as we continue on your journey, I always like to ask my guests for a success quote or a mantra. It's a nice way to get the inspirational tires smoking here on Cars Yeah. Andy, I know you love to drive, so take the wheel.
Yeah, I guess the quote that comes to mind, I don't know how inspirational it is for me, but it just it always pops up, is I read a lot of Hunter S. Thompson when I was in high school and early 20s. And so his quote, buy the ticket, take the ride, always. And I've always kind of applied that to my choices, career-wise, racing-wise. Just more or less, to me, it just means you're going for it. I mean, you buy into it 100%, and you just kind of let it take you where you want it to go.
Do you see that as a quote that defines your focus on your life? Because you've driven a lot of different types of cars and involved yourself in a lot of different racing and now coaching, helping others, which is the ultimate. cool thing to do, I think, is help others be successful. But buy the ticket, take the ride, to me kind of plays to, you know what? Take an opportunity and run with it. Don't miss an opportunity in life. Make sure you take all opportunities that come along. Is that kind of how you define that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Take your chances. Nobody wants to look back and feel like you didn't try or didn't try to go for your goals or dreams or anything like that. So, I absolutely think it could apply that way. Yeah, kind of apply in a more practical sense when it comes to coaching. I guess you pay for the coaching and we take you for the ride, So it works in a variety of ways.
I think it does. I remember I used to be a surfer. I grew up in Southern California, and I'd taken a break from surfing. I got married, got a job, and of course life gets in the way. And then my new next door neighbor moved in, and he surfed. He said, you should get back into it. So he got me back in the water. And I remember we went out, and I had been in the water in a while, and the waves were a little bit big that day. I was feeling a little bit intimidated, and I started to paddle to take off for a rather large set, and I kind of backed off, turned around, and he was paddling by, and I said, man, I should have taken that. And I'll never forget these words. He said, shoulda, coulda, woulda, words of a loser. And he splashed a bunch of water in my face. And at the time it was, we kind of laughed about it, but I sat out there thinking about it. And I'm still thinking about it today. Now, this was decades ago. The fact that, when you have an opportunity to try something, even if you think you might crash and burn, in that case, I probably felt like that wave was going to try to kill me. You know what? You should take that opportunity. Calculated risk, of course, but you should take the opportunity and try it. Dan Dworsky, shout out to Dan for keeping that thought in my head all these years and encouraging me to do some things in my life, including vintage racing that I did for quite a while, which is something I probably would have never undertaken if I hadn't remembered those words. So thank you, Dan. And thank you, Andy, for that great quote as well.
Racing too. I want to go. There's always chances.
Yeah, exactly. They're always there. You just need to recognize them. Well, let's talk about a story that instigated this passion you have for cars and racing. Is there a pivotal moment in your life when you knew that you were going to be a car guy and a race car driver?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a pivotal moment as much as like a time frame. When I was real little, like when my dad left us, I was like 2 years old, and we were living with my grandma back then. My mom's brother, my uncle, was around a lot, and he sort of took over that father figure role in my life, and he was heavily into motorcycles and motorcycle racing. And I'd say that's where a lot of this all started. And initially, it was all about motorcycles. Like I just loved them. We watched MotoGP every weekend. We were always watching World Superbike. I mean, I grew up with names like, Mick Doohan and Wayne Rainey, and, those kind of guys were like the heroes. That's kind of where it started. So I'd say, my early childhood, I knew I wanted to do something in racing. I knew I wanted to do something with something fast, and I didn't know if motorcycling was going to be the way, but I knew it was going to be something along those lines.
Yeah. Well, what a great guy, your uncle, to step up and kind of take you under his wing and help you along there. I think that's fantastic. So kudos, shout out to him. Any man that steps into that role and helps out a child, a woman in need in that way, I think is ultimately an incredible person. So you're very fortunate to have him in your life. And bikes are cool too. Yeah, I rode bikes in the dirt when I was a kid and rode bikes for a little by on the street. I know in our pre-show chat we talked about we both had Ducati Monsters, which are pretty cool bikes for sure. So that's great. Well, let's take a look at some of these roads you've driven down, because deciding to be a race car driver is fraught with ups and downs. One weekend you're a winner, the next weekend maybe you're not. The next weekend after that, you're trying to look for some funding to get in a ride. So talk about a big challenge you faced along the way, even a big failure that popped up. But more importantly, what was the learning lesson that you took from that so that you could move forward in a positive way?
I'd say at the end of high school, a friend and I decided we were going to move to Arizona, and we were going to become mechanics. We enrolled in a mechanic school called UTI. And at that point, I really wanted to be a race car driver. I loved racing, but what high school kid doesn't? But at the same time, I didn't know if it was realistic. But I thought, maybe I could be a mechanic and I could work for a team, or I could work on race cars or something like that. Fast forward a couple of years, I ended up getting an entry-level job at Bondurant as a mechanic in their shop, and I just thought that was it, man. I was making like $750 an hour, but I thought like I'd hit the lottery. I was like, I work at a racing school. I get to play with race cars all day long. It was like the best. Around that same time, I had like a little side job for a chiropractor who had like a little private club of go-kart enthusiasts. They were like, most of them were just very wealthy, successful businessmen that just loved karting and they just wanted to go play on the weekends. And he hired me as like a mechanic to help him clean and prep these cars between these outings. In exchange for my services, he was like, I'll let you take one of these and go race it if you want. And that's really how I got into racing. So it was just kind of a series of events that were kind of luck, just being at the right place, right time, and just having a lot of enthusiasm for it also. And I think people could see that. And so every step along the way, they just wanted to keep helping me get to the next level. And it really snowballed from there.
Yeah, it sounds cool. And it's kind of funny combining chiropractic with chiropractic work with go-karts, because I remember I hadn't been racing in a while, and I jumped in some go-karts with a friend, Brian, and we spent an afternoon, and I needed a chiropractor after that day. Oh my gosh. Like all my ribs felt like they were broken, and my back felt like it was tweaked one way, and my neck, oh my gosh. But those things are fun, and those shifter cars can go fast. Oh my gosh, just incredible stuff. So
I think that's the most challenging. I mean, you're asking what was a challenge, but I think unless you're lucky enough to have a family that was involved in racing before, or a family that's very wealthy, or there's money behind you to help push you through the levels, the most challenging part, the most difficult part is just finding a way in. And so having people like that in your corner is really the best to have.
I've heard this over and over. You are the culmination of the people you surround yourself with. And, you think back to when you're a kid and your mom was saying, hang out with the good kids, not the bad kids. And you kind of thought of it as an annoyance at the time, but moms are always right. You should surround yourself with positive people and even people that are much stronger than you in many ways, because they can help you achieve things that you never thought you could achieve. So, very, very important lesson out of that one for sure. Well, let's have a little bit of fun and talk about your first really special vehicle, or maybe the first really special race car you got in and you felt like, man, I've made it. This is what I've been wanting to do. And maybe share a memory you have about that ride.
Yeah, there's a couple that come to mind. I guess, the first car that I remember was actually my grandma's car. So when I was a little kid, she had like a 1984 Toyota Celica. And at the time, I thought that was the coolest car. And so I was like 5 years old or something. And I was like, Grandma, please, like, keep this car. I want this to be my first car. Please, please, please. She had a little fender bender in it. And my uncle called me at the house. And he said, hey, your grandma's been in an accident. And the first thing I said was, is the car okay?
Oh,
like, tell me that the car's okay. I didn't even ask to see if my grandma was all right, but she was fine, of course. It was just a minor deal, but that was probably the first car that sticks out.
Yeah, those are cool little cars. When I first started dating my wife, she had a 70s Celica and a GT. And I thought, man, this girl's pretty cool that she's driving one of these. And I love driving that thing. They had bulletproof motors in them too. They were awesome. And
they're kind of getting like a little resurgence too. Like the younger crowd is kind of bringing them back, which is kind of cool. The rear wheel drive. I like that. Like, they're cool.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Japanese cars as a trend are kind of making a comeback. In fact, at the Car Week down in Pebble Beach, they had a special Japanese car exhibition. I had a previous guest on the show here that curated that thing. And it was really neat to see that. And I think a big reason is, one is, us baby boomers, I'm talking for myself now, we're aging out a bit. So these other generations are coming through. And the 80s cars were cars they remember as kids, just like you remember your grandma's car, and they're more affordable. I've been a Porsche guy forever, but man, the price of used Porsches, especially vintage Porsches, are just ridiculous.
Man, so crazy.
Hard for a young person to get into a car like that. So I'm really happy to see this 80s resurgence of cars that are coming along, and especially Japanese cars. There were some really cool cars that were built during that time. fun cars, manual cars. So that's very cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
absolutely.
Grandma Celica. That when you said grandma, I thought, what? Really? A grandma car? But no, you had a cool grandma. That's for sure.
It was a cool car, man. At least to me back then, it was just, it didn't get any cooler than that car when I was 5, 6 years old.
Of course. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, and it helps it was your grandma too. So that makes it special. Well, how about seller's remorse? Is there a vehicle you've owned and let go that you really wish you still had?
Well, I never owned it, but the first car we raced in World Challenge was this Camaro. And me and a couple other mechanics that worked at Bondron at the time, we all built it on our own time. It was all volunteer, basis. And we built this thing basically reading like 5 or 6 pages of the rule book at a time. And then we put a little bit more of the car together, read a little bit more and put more of it together. We had no idea really what we were doing. And we got to the first race weekend and at St. Petersburg, and this was 2012. And, we're on the grid against Porsches and BMWs and all these really high-end cars that you would think of as race cars. And we've got this Camaro. And I thought, man, we are going to get destroyed. And we ended up putting it on the pole in the first race. So I was like,
wow.
I was like, oh, all right. I guess we built a pretty
maybe we built something
car.
here.
Yeah.
I mean, your competition must have been going, who are those guys?
Yeah, we were just a ragtag group of guys, and we were just doing it because we loved it. We didn't really have any money, or we had very little sponsorship, just enough to get there, and it was a great way to start. But that car, once it aged out, and it belonged to the team owner, and he sold it, and I wish I could have kept it, or because shortly after we sold it, the guy that bought it had a big accident in it, more or less totaled it. And it's gone. And so wish we could have that one back. It was such a good car. Sentimental, more than anything.
Well, of course, I've had hundreds of racers on Cars Yeah here, and most of them, that's how they answer that question. They wish they had the first race car, first go-kart, something like that, just because of the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into those first cars that you race, and how difficult it is to get into the industry. So, you got the memories, so that's the good thing. Well, I want you to share with our listeners your perspective of this business you've co-founded with Kai Goddard, Track Rekord. I'll remind our listeners, Rekord is spelled Rekord, and according to Steve, who was on the show on Friday, that's because Reckord, I can't even spell today. Rekord, Recrd was already taken. Anyway, it's Rekord. Get out my Google spelling book here. Holy cow, Mark, you're really losing it. I would love for you to share why this business was created, what your guys' flow behind it is, what your ideas behind it, and what has you so excited and fired up with this Track Rekord.
I think, the idea came from, I started, as I raced more and more, I started to get invited to help coach or people that were, sponsors or friends of mine would ask me to come coach. But if you didn't know me personally, how else would you get in touch with me, really? And so we started thinking, how do people find quality driver coaches? And really, it's all just word of mouth. And I have a friend that has a friend that knows a guy that is a pro driver, et cetera, et cetera. And even then, if you're a novice or an amateur coming into the sport, even a pretty decent weekend warrior could convince you that he's a pro driver. You really just don't know. And so we thought it'd be awesome to have a place where people could go and find a pro driver that's in their area, know that this person is a legitimate pro driver, and they can just book them right off the website. So that's kind of the premise of it. Yeah.
Well, when Steve was on, he was talking about the benefits that this has in many multitudes of ways, because having raced vintage cars, when I got into it, I didn't have a coach. I just jumped into a 1960 Lotus Formula Junior 18 and took some practice laps and went, okay, I guess I'm a race car driver now. Holy cow, what am I doing? This is crazy. Got little kids at home. But, if you're going to get into being a professional driver, you do need a coach. It's like anything, a business coach, a mentor. And I've had lots of coaches on this show, but there's many benefits that come out of this. Mentioned some of that in the intro when we were talking about the concept behind Track Rekord, and that is reducing risk, of course, so that people don't do things that could cause injury to themselves or others, which improves safety, of course, and lowering their lap times. And then he talked about also reducing insurance costs, because I remember back when I was driving, I started by doing track days with the BMW Club. I had an M3, and I thought, I'm going to go out here and see if I'm comfortable going at speed before I get into buying a race car. And I felt good about it, but I saw a few guys wreck their cars, and then they found out the hard way, you mean my insurance didn't cover me on the track?
Yeah. A lot of people find that out the hard way.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about some of these benefits as you see it, why somebody and even somebody who wants to amateur race or vintage race, why there's a benefit of getting a qualified coach to help them.
Well, I think a few things, I'd say the vast majority of people that I coach have no intention of ever going racing, and so you don't really need to, it's not a requirement that you have a pro driver coach only in the case that you want to go, wheel to wheel or door to door with people. But there's a lot of people that just want to go do track day events. They just want to go out and enjoy a sports car that they just purchased. And, you mentioned the cars that you started out in, and I started out in, go-karts. And I started out in really low horsepower momentum cars. And I've slowly worked my way up the ladder. But most of the people that we coach are people that, became very successful, or, for some reason or another, they wanted this high-end sports car, this car. And these cars come with, 500, 600, 700
frighteningly
horsepower now.
Fast.
Yeah. So they're starting with this just bomb of a car underneath them. And I think a lot of people think that because traction control systems, stability systems have evolved so much that they're almost crash proof, but certainly not the case. And we've partnered with an insurance company that does track day non-competition insurance, and their name's Open Track, of course. Yeah, they started kind of telling us about the claims that they were getting and what were the reasons for people having accidents. And we looked through all these claims, and it was pretty obvious to Kai and myself that this is just either no training or no experience, just very fundamental mistakes on most of those accidents, and nothing crazy, but I think you got to have an idea of what you're doing with these cars to really enjoy them.
Well, and it translates to the road too, because we certainly don't endorse any kind of high speed or racing on the streets. However, there might be situations you encounter when you're driving on the roads with somebody does something silly in front of you, pulls into your lane, or maybe you start to hydroplane if you run across a storm or ice or something like that. All these things relate to street driving. And I remember getting my motorcycle endorsement and having to go to a couple weekends of driving, motorcycle riding. And I thought, I used to ride bikes. I used to ride bikes in the dirt. I know what I'm doing. But I tell you, they taught me some stuff that literally saved me from getting hit multiple times by in a ton of drivers, people that pull out in front of me, even a dog that came after me one time.
Yeah.
And I never thought that would happen, but they taught you what to do if an animal comes after you or something. So I think it's really important. And you're right. I mean, these cars these days, I've been to track days where, and I don't know if you've encountered this, but you get always these guys at the driver's meeting. There's a few that aren't paying attention. They're back there kind of talking it up and stuff. And they're typically the first guys to hit the wall. They go out. Yeah. So having a good attitude, I think, is very important as well, right? A respect.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think when most people get to the point where they're looking or seeking out coaching, they're already in a good position to listen. When I worked at Bondurant, which was more of an experience sort of place where people that may or may not have had any passion for motorsports or track driving, some people just wanted to go there to do donuts in cars that didn't belong to them. And that's a little bit different game. But the clientele that we work with now are people that are, they understand the risk. They, like many people, have businesses and responsibilities and children, and they want to enjoy this super fast car, but know where those limitations lie. And I think whether obviously we don't endorse doing it on the street, but we know full well that most of these people are going to go have a good time. I think it definitely translates into avoiding, mistakes that you could make on a twisty mountain road as well. Yeah.
I'll tell you one of the things that I was shocked by in taking, I had multiple M3s, and my E46, when I got the first one of those, took it to the track, and had a coach there with me, and we did some laps with traction control on and then taking it off. And the dramatic difference in the vehicle when you remove that savior device is just eye-opening. I mean, like, oh my gosh. I mean, it didn't take long for that car to break loose and go, oh, geez. I need to be very, very careful in this thing. Because that's what's been saving me. So that little blinking light that's down there that I smile at when I hit some water or go through a corner a little too quick. So, well, Track Rekord, this is a great venture that you guys are on. I think it's fantastic. I'll make sure I put a link to that on Andy's website. If you didn't listen to my talk with Steve Kimpton, one of their business partners there, you can go back and listen to his talk as well. And of course, Kai's going to be on the show coming up in the next couple of weeks. So we've got 3 people here to share this experience with us. Andy, up next is the last lap. Before we put the pedal to the metal, let's say thank you to today's Cars Yeah sponsors. When you want proven performance, there's one brand that's been around since 1938. That's Edelbrock, building the finest American-made performance products for the street and track. Edelbrock's products are designed and dyno-proven to deliver maximum results. Edelbrock has thousands of made-in-the-USA performance products for all makes and models. From their new AVS2 carburetor and innovative ProFlow 4 EFI for your muscle car or truck, to superchargers for your daily driver and more, visit Edelbrock.com to check out the latest products for your ride. And when you're ready to check out, enter Cars Yeah in the coupon code and get 10% off your order. That's Edelbrock, automotive performance since 1938. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified, and he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp. Member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp. Are you looking for a way to get your products or services into the ears of thousands of automotive enthusiasts around the globe? I can help. This is Mark Green here at Cars Yeah, and I'd be honored to be an influencer and ambassador for your brand in a unique and personal way. 5 days a week, thousands of subscribers and listeners enjoy the Cars Yeah podcast and website. Contact me today and I'll show you how at mark@carsyeah.com or connect with me through the Cars Yeah website at carsyeah.com. All right, Andy, we're back, and I have a bit of an introspective question for you. I'm going to kind of get in your head a little bit. If you woke up tomorrow and you were a car, not what you want to be, but how you perceive yourself as a car or a race car, what would Andy be and why?
These days, I'm getting bigger and bigger into outdoor adventure. I'm big into mountain biking, camping. I've got an enduro motorcycle now instead of a Ducati Monster.
Oh, so nice. Oh, enduros are cool.
I'm all about getting out and away, but at the same time, I've always had a passion for station wagons. So I thought I would probably be like one of those 1980s AMC Eagle wagons.
Okay.
So,
all right.
wood paneling on the side, and I'd get way out there, I think.
That's pretty cool.
That represents me at the time.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair answer for sure. I live in a little place called Gig Harbor, Washington, which is an hour south of Seattle. And last weekend, I posted on my Facebook page, I took somebody over to a little gas station repair shop and parked in front of their place was a 1960s Rambler station wagon.
Nice.
It was, you don't see those at all. I mean, you don't see most old station wagons because they've all been used up and rotted away. But a little yellow guy, yeah, very cool. For those of you who follow me,
truckster.
Yeah, but it's kind of small. The Rambler wagons were a little more compressed than the big Fords or the Oldsmobile Vista Cruisers like we had when I was a kid in the 60s. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I like wagons. I've been trying to convince my wife her next car should be a wagon. I don't know. She kind of looks at me cross. She goes, well, we don't have kids anymore. We don't need a wagon anymore.
I know. It's a hard conversation to have.
But they're so cool. She goes, well, you get a wagon then if you like them so much. I'm like, I kind of like my Porsche and my M3. So anyway, end of conversation there. Well, we are entering the last lap. This is a place you've been many times. The white flag's out. Time to put your foot into it. And I'm going to ask you a series of questions and ask you to give our listeners some quick blips of the throttle answers. So here we go. What's the best automotive or racing advice you've ever received?
Oh, man. I guess just automotive. The thing that comes to mind right away is don't buy new cars. People always, it's like taking the loss on the value is pretty hard. And I've never bought a new car until recently. And now I'm like,
you broke your own rule.
Yeah. I'm like, and then as soon as I bought it, I was like, I shouldn't have done that. I mean, I love the car a lot, but you're just like, I should have bought a used car. But,
You know what? I've done that my whole life, and I have a good friend. Hopefully he's listening today, Eddie. He's a driving coach. He's a Porsche guy. He's got a cool GT4, 993, GT3. He's got some cool cars, but I always commend him because that's been his rule. He goes out and finds really nice used cars and buys those and lets the first guy take that depreciation hit. And, my son just bought his first car. He's 25. He had a car we bought him when he was in high school and college, but he sold it because he was living in a city and didn't need a car. But he likes to get out in the country like you. So he needed something that was 4-wheel drive, but, and I said, well, look, find something that's 3 years old, single owner, somebody that's like your dad, takes good care of them. And he shopped and he found a really cool Subaru Outback.
Perfect.
And, in the glove box was the window sticker. And he goes, Dad, I bought this for half of what this car costs new. And I said, you did it right. You're much smarter than me, son. Thanks for listening. So, I think that's great advice, especially for young people, is don't get into debt heavily with cars, because once you drive them, they're a used car. So, you can find people like Mark Green who take very good care and love of their car. And I do eventually sell my cars. So, you can buy one of those. How about a personal habit of yours that you believe has contributed to your successes over the years?
I think, just when I was trying to work my way up through the racing ladder, even if we didn't have much sponsorship money, even if we were down to the last dollar to get to that race weekend, we tried to always look professional, at least. We always tried to look like we had tons of sponsor money. We always tried to dress like I wanted to be a professional race car driver. And I feel like it helps in a way. I mean, you're always being judged by other people, whether you like it or not. And I think, especially in that industry where it's pretty competitive and it's tough, you don't want to give anybody a reason to doubt you. So I think if you at least look the part, it goes a little ways to helping you keep moving.
This is a really valuable lesson, especially for young people just getting into business. My first career for 11 years was in advertising and marketing, and I remember getting out of college and going to work, and my boss said, you need to go out and buy yourself some suits. And I'm like, well, we're a creative firm. Why do I need to wear a suit and a tie? And he said, because we're being a creative firm for professional organizations. We worked for realtors and commercial lenders and banks and developers. And those guys wore suit and ties to work back in the day. And he said, you want to look credible when you walk in that office. They're going to judge you by the way you look. And whether you like that or not, that's the way of the world. And I always appreciated that with him. So I went out and bought myself 5 suits and ties and, nice shoes. And it makes a difference because you see your competitors going in there, in a casual shirt and jeans and stuff. And, those guys go, well, you don't really get my business if that's the way you dress.
Yeah, so, especially when you're going in there racing-wise and you're asking a potential sponsor for hundreds of thousands
for a lot of money. Yeah. And you look like a Yahoo off the track.
Yeah. I mean, you better at least look like you're going to represent him well.
There you go.
It's, believe me, I don't enjoy wearing dress-up clothes any more than anybody else, but I just feel like that was just kind of part of the deal. And I feel like it always kind of helped me get into doors that I probably wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
No doubt that it did. How about a couple resources? I know Track Rekord, again, that's spelled Track, REKORD.com is one You also mentioned an insurance company that does insure your vehicle when it's on the track. What's the name of that company?
Yeah, they're a partner of ours. We're the official driver coaching service for them, and they're Open Track. And Open Track provides track day insurance, so non-competition. So if you're looking to take your brand new Porsche out to the track to go have some fun, it's kind of nice to have a little peace in mind. Your fun at the racetrack. One of the owners of Open Track always says, the fun should come from the rush of speed and not the risk that you're taking in the car. So it's a really cool way to insure the car. You can do it on a as needed basis, like a weekend policy, or you can do an annual policy, which is unlimited track days basically throughout the racing season. So they're a really good group of guys. We worked with them a lot, and unfortunately, everybody has a claim every once in a while, and even the people that have had to file claims, gone super smooth. So highly recommend it if you're a track day junkie.
Opentrack.com. Very good resource if you'd like to take your car to the track. Otherwise, call your insurance company and ask them point blank, if I'm doing this and I crash my car, am I covered? Because you may be surprised at the answer you get. A lot of them do not cover even drivers' training days. Anytime you're off the road on a track, a lot of them do not cover you. So be careful. How about if I could arrange for you to sit down and have a drink or a meal with anyone in the automotive or racing industry, living or deceased? Who would that be?
Easy. I think the guy I'd want to sit down with, and it'd probably be a beer, I'm assuming, would probably be Valentino Rossi. I would love to take Valentino Rossi's mind. The guy's just unbelievable. And so, like I said, I'm a big motorcycle racing fan, so I watch a lot of GP, and just it would be cool to sit down with him, I think. I think it'd be hilarious.
No kid. Yeah, I'd like to get him on this show. He's a hard guy to get to, but really admired what he's done. He just seems like a fearless guy, but he's got talent that goes very, very deep. You look at some of the stuff he does.
Unreal.
I don't even know how he does it. I look at most MotoGP riders and I go, how do they do that? I mean, it's a mind-boggling.
Yeah,
it is. It's almost scary to watch sometimes. Because you just watch, especially those super slow-mos, where you look at how little of that tire is on that track and how much those bikes are moving around. It's just a lot of admiration for those guys. How about a book? Is there a book you've read that you'd like to share?
Let's see. Lately, nothing super businessy or inspiring or anything. We just got a black lab puppy, so most of my reading has been about how to raise a black lab puppy. So my nightstand's got 2 black lab books on it right now. That's what I've been reading.
How to raise a black lab puppy. Okay. It's like having a baby, I hear. So, yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, those labs are awesome dogs. So,
he's great.
You're going to have a great one if you can just survive the first 3 years is what I've heard.
Oh man. Yeah. It's already been a lot of work. We, thankfully, we had this couch that we've just kind of kept moving the last few times we've changed houses, and it was just a Goodwill couch. It was in great condition. But I mean, literally a couple months into having the dog, he totally destroyed the entire thing. So,
oh gosh,
he's lived up to their reputation for sure. So we won't be spending any money on that.
Yeah, our next door neighbor had a beautiful chocolate lab. It was a great dog, and when they do grow up, they're just amazing pets and companions to have. So you got a great one. What's your dog's name?
His name's Miles.
Miles. Okay, I like
we had to drive 3.5 hours to get him. And my wife and I on the drive, we were like, okay, we're going to name him from something we see on a road sign on our way down there. And so it came down to Miles or Forrest. Yeah. And we settled on Miles.
I like that. Well, that's a little closer than my neighbor's current dog. My wife and I flew to Boston and picked that dog up and brought him home for him. So that was a little further away, 3,500 miles or whatever.
That's a long trip.
His dog is named Warden, and we are Warden's dog parents versus godparents. So we kind of bonded with him on the flight home. So I take him for walks as often as I can. It's a good thing to do every day to get up from behind this computer. Very nice. Well, I'll remind our listeners you can find all these resources on Andy's show notes page on the Cars Yeah website. All right, Andy, we're up to the checkered flag, and this last question can be a bit of a doozy. Today, I'm going to buy you any cool collector car, vintage race car, whatever you want to park in your garage, but there are some rules to this game that may make it a little bit of a challenge. One is It's the only one collector car or vintage race car you can have. You have to drive it, no garage queens allowed, and you can't sell it to fund your business or buy another car or another 10 cars with. So what's it going to be?
The car that comes to mind is, it's got to be the Ferrari F40. It's, that's got to be like the quintessential car of my childhood. And I think if there was ever a bedroom poster car for me, that was it. And so I think if I could have one of those, I would be more than happy to drive that every day. Have you had a chance to drive one? No, it's one of the very few cars I've just never had the opportunity. So, I would relish it if it ever came around.
You know, it makes sense for a guy like you because basically that's a race car with a street car body on it. I mean, it's just the last of those analog Ferraris. And oh my gosh, I got to drive one, not very spirited, but it was a guy's collection. We were photographing it and let me drive it up and down the back of his warehouse area there. So got to drive it a little bit spirited, but nothing serious. But oh my gosh, when you step on the gas, that thing turns into a beast. It's just incredible. Oh, it's just a fun car. Would you like yours in the traditional Rosso red, or is there a unique color you'd like yours to be?
I've only seen a few in black, and I always thought the black was just the coolest because it's menacing on top of being just such a raw car. So I think I'd go black. Saw a black one at Concorso Italiano years ago, and I had never seen one before. And I'm not really a black car guy because I'm a clean car guy, so black is impossible to keep clean. So that's why I don't like it. I think it looks beautiful, though, but it looked really nice in black. It works. I think that car works in any color. It could be pink. I'd still drive it. So I'd take it still, anytime. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Andy, you've taken me on a great ride today. I knew this would be spirited and fun. I want to thank you for enjoying your stories. Thank you for sharing your journey. Could you offer us a little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you rip off into the sunset in that Ferrari F40? Yeah. This piece of advice always came from the same chiropractor. His name was Barry Panzer. He mentored me a lot through my 20s and through my racing career. And one of the things he always preached at me was just, it's this business. And I'm finding out that any business really, it's just relationships. It's just, value those people that you come into contact with and value the people that get behind you, and just don't forget about that. Don't burn any bridges because it always comes back around. And so that's the thing I always try to keep in mind, and I'll try to continue to do that with Track Rekord as well. Yeah, well, like I said earlier, what Mom taught us all, hang out with the best kids, not the bad ones. So that works in business and life throughout life. So shout out to all the moms out there, including mine. And what's the best way for our listeners to learn more about you and Track Rekord? So Track Rekord, you can visit us on our website. It's just trackrekord.com, record with a K. And we have Instagram as well, so at Track Rekord. And you can find me also at andyleeracing.com. It's my personal website, and at Andy Lee Racing on Instagram. If you want to keep up with us and find out more, like there's a little coaching inquiry on our website. So we'd love to hear from you. And if you're looking for a little coaching, we'd love to help you. Absolutely. And they can help you. And if you missed my talk with Steve, their business partner, he was on last Friday. You can go back and find Steve Kimpton on the Cars Yeah website. And coming back to the show here soon will be Kai Goddard. So you can listen to his update on his career as he moved into co-founding this business along with Andy. Andy, thanks for being so generous today with your time and expertise and for sharing your many experiences with the Cars Yeah listeners. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road or at the track. Sounds good, Mark. Have a good one. You too. Hey, Mark Green here from Cars Yeah. Did you know you can now see me on the Cars Yeah TV show? It's a weekly visit to some of my past Cars Yeah podcast guests, and I take you along for the ride. You go behind the garage door and into their lives, their businesses, and you get to see what makes them successful. With tens of millions of viewers, Cars Yeah TV is making its mark. Cars Yeah TV is available on MAV TV and Lucas Oil Racing TV. You'll find MAV TV on Direct TV, Fubo TV, Fios by Verizon, or you can stream it through Lucas Oil Racing Television online. And they said I only had a face for podcasting.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah!